obviously understand.
I'm Alan Flowers, the chair of the Anglo-Belarusian Society, and we are here on Saturday, the 14th of March 2026, for a meeting of the Anglo-Belarusian Society with the guests Cimafiejeva and Alhierd Bacharevič, two extremely eminent Belarusian writers who are visiting the United Kingdom for the first time, so it's very fitting that their first ever public presentation in the United Kingdom is here in Marion House in Finchley in London, and with the Anglo-Belarusian Society. So let's join for a warm welcome to
First of all, thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you very much, Anglo-Belarusian Society and Alan Flowers personally, for having us here in the UK. Actually, that's also very strange to be in the English language country. I learned or studied even the English language at the university, but the first opportunity to get to an English language country I got only in 2023, and it was not Great Britain, it was not neither the US, but it was Australia. So that's the second English-speaking country for us to visit, and it's for me it's also very pleasant to speak English and not German, for example. Yeah. So as together with Alhierd, we live in Berlin. Yes. Exactly. So, maybe to start, we will also not only talk, we will read today as well. And to start, with Alhierd, we've been discussing what kind of topic we could choose for this meeting, and it could be we decided how exile, as we would say, we are exiled authors. We are believed to be this kind of authors, for example, in Germany. Very often we are invited for the events for exiled authors, for authors from Syria, from Iran, from Iraq, from Afghanistan, from these countries where there are problems with human rights. And maybe you don't know, but only 9% of people in the world, 8% of the people of the world live in full democracies. So here in Great Britain, you are very happy, like there in Germany, to live in full democracies. And we decided also to speak how this exile changes us as people, as a person, how exile changes you as a person and as an artist. And you are also writing. And maybe after our talk and our reading, you will have questions, or you will have your own reflections, how this experience of exile or immigration changed you. We would be happy to. So I guess also people here in the audience will be happy to hear your experience as well. But before that, maybe we should introduce ourselves a bit, yeah, and tell about ourselves. Though maybe you know something before. Yes, what are you looking for? Okay. Yes. Okay. And maybe I will start with our life, a bit of our life. Yes. Alan?
No, recording and looking for tripod, but it's
okay. You can ask, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, it's found.
Okay.
Okay. So before 2020, and I guess we do not have to tell you what happened in 2020. Alhierd and me lived in Minsk. Of course, you know that we are married, and we lived as a married couple in Minsk, and a literary couple in Minsk as well. We published our books. We took part in the literary events, for example, in Logvinov bookstore. What else did we do? We had readings in different Belarusian cities and towns. We took part in the literary festivals. Maybe I would, we won't speak so much about these two books that we have, sorry. maybe Alan expected us to have the whole hour about that, but we have new books to tell. But this book, for example, was published in 2014 in the Belarusian language by Alhierd publishing house, and now we see the English translation made by Jim Dingley and Peter Reid, yeah, a Scottish author herself, Scottish author, or yes, yeah. And because the part of the book is translated into the Scots language, right? Scots. And this is a story. If you haven't read that book, this is a story about a girl and a boy going through the forest, escaping the hospital where they had to be treated from a very special disease. And this disease is the Belarusian language and Belarusian pronunciation. Am I right, Alhierd? Yes. Do you remember where the book is about?
Absolutely correct.
Yes. Yeah. There is a doctor and there is a father, a bit crazy, both a bit crazy. And of course, this story was inspired by the fairy tale by Brothers Grimm about... Yeah, your German is now better. Please come in. Yeah. And the book has been translated 2020 into English.
And 2019 into French.
Yes.
And
we have a very, very fresh book
and
here with us.
last year, yes, into Ukrainian.
Oh.
Yeah, you can see we have how many copies? 2 copies maybe of the Ukrainian version of the book. So if you are interested,
but maybe I can tell about this.
Please do.
Yes. Yeah, it's real. Okay. Hello everyone. I'm happy to see you. Thank you for coming. I know some faces in this room, but maybe not every face. I know. Yes. Alendakas children, thank you, Yulia, for your introduction, for your explaining about this book. This book is maybe not so well known. Dogs of Europe, my huge novel, is the famous novel of me. Yeah, translated into German, translated into Polish, into Russian, and staged. Yeah, and I see in this room Alhierd. Yeah, he was an actor at the performance. Yeah, with this novel.
Here in London, in Barbican.
In Barbican, and not only in Barbican.
Not
in Australia.
And in Paris. Did you play in Paris?
Also, yes.
Were you in Paris? Был у Парижа? Yeah, so in Paris. And
Okay, yeah, I'm going to speak English today. English is not my language, so my English is a constructed language, I would say. Yes, but I will try my best. It is maybe my 3rd event in English language in my life. I've never learned English in my life. Not at the school and at university, but yeah, I can speak, I can tell something in this language. It's a very interesting new experience for me today. Okay, maybe you can tell me about your book.
Yes, about my books. Maybe I also have to tell something about this book, Alendakas Children. It was published in Scotland by the Scotland Street Press, and we have many copies of the book. And in order not to take these copies belong to Alan, and maybe not to take all these copies to Edinburgh. Yes, back. So please, if you don't have one, think about buying. And the book of mine that can be found also in this one of the books, of course, is Motherfield. That's my only English language book. It was published 2022, but not here, not in the Great Britain. It was published in the US by Texas publishing house, Deep Vellum, translated by Valzhina Mort. I hope you know this name. A very good Belarusian author, poet, writing both in the Belarusian language and in the English language. And she translated that book together with Hanif Abdurraqib, a famous also American poet and essayist as well, so that there were common experience. And I'm speaking about, so we started that we wanted to speak with you how exile or immigration changed us as artists in person, and I would like to read a poem out of that book, both in the Belarusian language and in the translation made by Valzhina Mort and Hanif Abdurraqib. And then we'll go on. Автопортрет у вигляді косточки авокадо. That's me speaking Belarusian. Чим більша косточка, тим хутчэй яна прарасце. Я читала парады, перш чым уткнуць, 3 зубачысткі, цвярдыню яе сцягна, перш чым заглыбіць, шчыльны каўчэг зярняці у шклянку з вадой. З раніцы раптам лупіна лопнула. Разламалася мясістая костачка, быццам сталі насупраць адзін аднаго 2 сусветы. Іх можна было б назваць тут і там, захад і ўсход, чужое і роднае, урэшце яны і мы. Можна было б, калі б не корань, што пачынае расці між 2 палавінак, калі б не сцябліны маленькая галава, прыўзнятая над вадой. Глядзі, як выпаўзае хтосьці з каўчэгу у пошуках новай зямлі. Гэта я. And then, thank you, but it will take time. And now I will read the English translation for those who don't understand the Belarusian language. Self-portrait as an avocado seed. The larger the avocado seed, the sooner it will sprout. I researched the growing tips before I stabbed 3 toothpicks into the firm thigh, before I lowered an arc sealed hermetically into a glass of water. By the morning, the shell is cracked, the fleshy seed split into 2, as if 2 worlds have come to a face-off. I could call them here and there, west and east, mine and not mine, and finally, us and them. One could have, if not for the root that shoots and grows between the 2 halves, if not for the small head of a sprout raised over the water. Look, somebody crawls out of the ark in search of a new land. It's me. So this poem is also about, so it's not only about losing something, but it's also about growing. We have to grow, we have to develop all the time when we're in immigration. And Alhierd, how does exile influences you as an artist and also as a person? How does it change you? Do you grow as well, or do you feel that everything is cut and torn and yeah?
Thank you, Yulia. Of course, the exile, the situation is for every author is like a catastrophe, a big catastrophe. And every writer in exile is like a child. I must learn new language, new life, new society, new tradition, and I speak like a child. I write like a child, and the perception of my writing is in exile, perception of children, children literature, children books. But on the other hand, yeah, this situation of exile, it gives us many possibilities to tell about my writing, about my culture. Yeah, it means many possibilities for Belarusian culture, for Belarusian literature. 5 years in exile. This is not my first immigration. 2007, 2013, I lived in Germany as an immigrant, as a writer in exile in Hamburg. And at that time, 2007, the Belarusian literature, Belarusian language was absolutely
Absent.
Absent in the Western culture and for the Western media.
Invisible.
Invisible, absolutely invisible. And now, the situation has changed. Yes. And for example, for last 5 years, I got in Germany 2 big prizes, 2 big literary prizes. One prize is a Leipzig Book Award for European Understanding, and this is the biggest literary prize in Germany that non-German speaking authors can.
Yes.
Yeah. For my novel Dogs of Europe in German translation, 2 years ago, my brilliant translator into German, Thomas Weiler, he finished his work on this novel, and the novel was published at Walland and Christ publishing house in Germany, and I got the prize. I have many invitations to readings, I had many reviews, I had many interviews about this novel, Dogs of Europe, and it's a pity, but this novel is not translated into English, and I'm looking for a publisher here, and I got another prize, Erwin Piscator Prize, for my work. It's not so bad, for the writer in exile who is living in another country, in Germany.
But is it only about price? How have you changed as a person?
As a person, yes. Yeah, of course, after 2020, I write more about politics, about the situation in Belarus. So literature is always politics, it's a political thing. Yes. And after 2020, we understand that much better. We must be political. If we live, we are living in exile. So, and I have this in this room, you mentioned it, Jim Dingley, my brilliant translator into English. And yes, for example, my book, Written in Exile, the title of this book in English is The Police Ransack
in the Museum.
In the museum.
Piratrus u muzeje.
Yes.
Yeah, but you will read something else, not from that book.
This is the book in Belarusian language, Piratrus u muzeje, and we have this
your copy?
translations.
So we have a copy of that book.
Only one.
Yes, but you can.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm speaking about literature, about my writer's identity.
Writer's identity. But we also spoke a bit that you have a book that you changed the genre, let's say, and
Yes. Absolutely correct. Yes. Last 5 years, I write in different genres, in new genres. I have this book, Kapitan Latucha Ryba, Captain Flying Fish.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. This is adventures of one Belarusian girl in exile, Alhierd. She lives in a city in Germany, in Hamburg, I would say. Yeah, and he has many adventures.
She travels around the world to.
And what is interesting with this book, Levon Volsky, our musician, our rock star from Belarus, he illustrated this book.
And so we have also one copy of the book available.
One copy, with painting, with illustration by Levon Volsky.
Yeah.
And I started to write more poems this time, and this is Alhierd Bacharevič versi. This book is also unique for me and maybe for the Belarusian literature. This is in Latinka.
Okay, correctly.
Latinka and Cyrillic
Alphabet.
alphabet.
And you will read the poem out.
Yes, and I write many fairy tales like this. Площа Перемоги, a small book published in Prague, in Czech Republic by Belarusian publishing house Если. Площа Перемоги, a small fairy tale about our time, about changes.
But it's allegory, yeah?
Yes.
English word, yeah? For allegory. It's a fairy tale, but it's not about 2020 or 2025. It's about some made-up time in a made-up country. I would say that's a kind of fantasy or something, yeah? So about...
I would say this is fairy tale.
A fairy tale.
Fairy tale, yeah.
Something about the 17th, 18th century war. Yeah. Okay, will you read the poem?
Yes, why not? This is the poem Suprativ, Resistance. I wrote this poem to 2021 after we were leaving the country. We left the country. At first in Belarusian and then in English. Супротив. Макс Фасмар, знакомитый лингвист, ходил на працу заўсёды з двума портфелями. Одна рука портфель трымала и другая. Каб ни тую, ни другую не подымать у прывітання, что зовется хит на курс, ни правую, ни левую. Год быў, здаецца, 41-й. На ўсходзе і на поўдні ў палявых умовах славістыкай займаліся студэнты пана Фасмара, далёка ад Берліна. Пардон, ківаў прафесор Фасмар, выбачальна, прыўзнімаючы абодва партфелі, калі ён сустракаў калегаў на вуліцах ці ў калідорах, пракураных, як калісьці было прынята ва ўніверсітэтах. А яны яго віталі на новай мове, мове новай Европы, найноўшай мове жестаў, мове пераможцаў. У іх руках было так много гарадоў і толькі адзін партфель. Адзін народ, адна імперія і фюрер таксама адзін, заўжды адзін, самотны і непераможны. Але партфеляў у руках прафесара было заўсёды два. Такім быў супроціў лінгвіста Макса Фасмара, безрукага мужчыны ў прыручаным Берліне. Свяціла у галіне славістыкі. А потым пачаліся зацямненні. I think you understand this poem, this art of resistance.
But what is interesting, you wrote it first in the German language. You wrote it in German.
Yes, it was my experiment with German language. And Jim Dingley has translated this poem into English. Thank you, Ella.
You forgot?
Jim.
We remember.
2021, 2021, and this is the translation. Resistance. Max Fassmer, the famous linguist, always went to work with 2 leather briefcases, one in each hand, so as not to have to raise one in the Hitler salute, neither right nor left. 1941 it was, Berlin. To east and south, Professor Fassmer's students were conducting Slavonic research in the field. I do beg your pardon, both my hands are full, said Professor Fassmer, and raised the briefcases slightly whenever he met a colleague on the street or in a smoke-filled corridor, as was the custom back then in universities. So they Heil Hitlered him in Europe's newspeak, the perfect speech of gestures, the speech of victors. To them belonged a host of cities, and yet they own just one briefcase. One people, one realm, one leader, and a guidebook with a little well-thumbed dictionary. It was his way of resistance. No victor he, Professor Fassmer, an armless man in a pliant Berlin, a light to lighten the Slavonic faculty. And then the blackouts began. Translated by Jin Ding. Maybe you can
Yes.
yeah,
I will also.
answer these questions.
Can you
Question,
give me
yeah.
the book also there? Yeah. So
This book.
yes. So how it changed me also as a person and as an artist. Of course, when we left the country in 2020, I felt guilt and a lot of guilt. I even shaved my hair, my head also in order to do something. Maybe it was a kind of sacrifice, or maybe it was a kind of self-harm or something like that. But it was also we needed something very physical, because the protests also were very physical. And before going to the protest, Alhierd and me took part in this protest. We didn't know how much bodily experience is in that, because we read the books about revolutions, we read books about protests and so on and so forth. But when you are in the street and when you are running and you are out of breath, or you can't move, or you can't hide or something, and you feel, or when you are beaten, even we haven't been beaten, yeah, that you understand how much in that is of your body. And after and still it went on, this experience, it was still alive. And maybe also due to these feelings, I also wrote this book. But of course it was not my idea to write this book. Minsk Diary, that's the Belarusian translation published by Skarina Press. Igor is here, yeah, and the book is available also. The book I wrote in English also. So on the one hand, there was this bodily experience, but on the other hand, I could not express that in the Belarusian language I write. I could express that only in the English language. It was a kind of, sometimes I use the metaphor of writing in the gloves. Also, not to make this too painful, not to make, because I was too sensitive, even translating this book several years after I translated that book into the Belarusian language from English, and still it was painful, and I had breakdowns or something. I got very emotional. I'm very emotional, as you can see, but also translating that book, I got very emotional doing that. And this book describes our taking part in the protests in August 2020, in October and November 2020, and then the third part of the book tells about our being in exile already in Austria. Austrian Graz was the first city where we spent our time after leaving the country. And yeah, and partly this book became it was used, yeah, partly in this book, Motherfield, because the full title of the book sounds like Poems and Belarusian Protest Diary. The diary was edited and shortened by my translators. As of course, English is not my mother tongue, and it's also very interesting how this English language writing does not make me either English or Australian or South African or American author, but I still stay a Belarusian author, even writing in the English language. So that's one of the books that I wrote. Part of it I wrote still in Belarus, the first part. It started as an essay for Financial Times, and it was to be written in English. That's why I also went on writing that in English to some extent. So one of the reasons is because it was too painful, but on the other hand, that was the only possible way. And the book was written for the Swedish publisher. So it was not written for the English or something published. It was written for Swedish translation. That was also, it was easier for my translator to work with the text from English, but not from the Belarusian language. I will tell about the books, yeah? So then there was Volche Jagody book that it's here on the table, that comprises my writing, my poems from 3 previous books published, but also new poems published during this 2 years of exile. The book was published in 2022, I guess. Yeah, so poems about this experience being in the streets, but also this experience of being outside of the country. So the first exiled poems, let's say. And last year I had 2 books published. I will start with this one, maybe. The light one, the funny one, let's say. The book called Ich zerschneide die Geschichte, Lyrik und Collagen. Режу историю собой, верши, коллажи. And it's a bilingual book, as you can hear. In English it will be, I cut the history with my own self, poems and collages. And I started making these collages in 2024 in Hamburg. It was when we were in Hamburg, it was one of the coldest summers in Hamburg. At that time, in Berlin, it was 30 degrees or 32 degrees, and in Hamburg, it was 24 maximum. And it was time when Alhierd could not leave the city of Hamburg because of documents. I guess Belarusians know what it means. Yes, that sometimes you have to stay at one place and not leave it because you are waiting for your documents. And that's why it was a bit gloomy time. And to overcome this gloominess, to overcome this cold weather, I started making funny collages, absurd collages that you can find in the book. There are also these kind of books on the table. You can take them. You can buy them. And while making these collages, I started thinking why I'm an adult woman making this kind of things, playing with paper. It was like very unserious action or doing work. And I realized that was a kind of, this collage making was close to the experience of being in exile, of being cut out of your own history, cut out of the page of your life and pasted somewhere else. And now you have to deal with the elements around, with the bureaucracy, with the new language, with the new society, as you said, with new rules, new traditions, and so on and so forth. And I'm feeling out of place all the time, but still I have to make something out of this new identity. I have to understand, I have to, on the one, grasp what's going on, but on the other hand, I have to build my identity in you. I have to collect it out of the elements that I see and that I find connection with. Well, I'm too complicated explanation, but still. And then my a publisher, Edition Fröhlich, Gelindes Westphal, a small publisher. Gelindes, she's in her 70s and she's doing her job on her own. So it's a very small publishing house. And she had an idea to publish these collages, but together with my poems. And I wrote the poems as illustrations for the collages and not vice versa. We have, yeah? Am I too long? You are just silent, yeah? Oh, good. Okay.
Maybe you can show the collages.
Yes, I will show the collages. And I have an idea to read to you these small poems in the Belarusian language, and not in German, but in my self-translations into English. So if you hear that something is not right, that's my fault. Both times. So as an author and as a translator. So that I will read. So you can see this woman. Do you know who she is? Sometimes once the Belarusian public told me that it was Larisa Geniush. No, it's not Larisa Geniush. It's Leni Riefenstahl, the friend of Hitler and a famous film director of the Nazi times and after that. And this poem gave the title to the book. I have to also prepare, sorry, my translations. Yeah. Режу історію собою. Надай пасля. Спрабую утиснуть у прагал сціплы скарб з досвіду і ўяўлення. Але яна мацнейшая. Ужо навіс над галавой пагрозлівы цень вечка. In my self-translation, I cut the history with my own self into before and after, trying to squeeze in between my humble treasure of experience and vision. But it's stronger. A grave shadow of the lid is already over my head. Go on. That's another wash. If you have questions how I started that and so, you can ask them afterwards, because we have this 20 minutes and we should speak about something, right? Про щілину нового досвіду углядаюся в чужие краєвіди навколо. Сачодним воком за імклівим рухом рек і подій, за тим, як камечиться паперова світобудова, як парасони прохожих трущить піхура глобальних змен. А другое воко заплющенное, у минулое и родное, откуль не выбраться, куды не добраться. Through the crack of the new experience, I'm peering at the new landscapes around. I'm following with one eye the swift current of rivers and events, how the paper world order is crushed, how the passerbys' umbrellas are broken by the storm of the global changes. My other eye is closed into the past and native, where there is no way out, no way in. Будь з собой. Легко казать тому, хто не мусить, щодня збиратися наново з емігрантського конструктора. Навошта стільки деталей? Де інструкція? Be yourself. It's easy to say for those who should not build themselves every day anew from the emigrant's construction set. What for are there so many blocks? Where is the instruction? I have a nice story about this football player, but I won't tell you. We don't have enough time.
You do.
Часам я сумняюся, што гэта і ёсць мая рэчаіснасць. Горы, зацалаваныя гарызонтам, азёры ў белых пытальніках лебедзяў, дамкі пад дахоўкай ціхамірнасці. Гэта сапраўднасць ці маляваны дыван, які толькі хавае смутак і цемру праўдзівага свету. Давай праверым. Sometimes I doubt that it is my reality. The mountains kissed by the horizon, the lakes in the white question marks of swans, the little houses roofed with serenity. Is it for real, or just a painted curtain covering the sorrow and dark of the true world? Let us prove. Yeah, and the last one. Okay? Okay. Yes, we have more, but more is почитаю про это.
Читай.
Okay, there is one more. Very simple collage. Yeah. Што ёсць у табе жывога? Пасля ад'езда, ўрастанняў і страт углядаешся чорную скрыню ўнутры і нічога не бачыш. Але рука намацвае цёплую поўсць і пад ёю трапечацца чыёсьці сэрца. Напэўна, гэта тваё. What is alive in you? After all the parting and leaving and loss, you are staring into the black box inside and see nothing. But your hand grows for the warm fur with someone's heart underneath. It must be yours. And the last poem in this book, and the last poem that I'm going to read out of this book, that's the collage. In the cover. Каб адолець бяскрайнюю дарогу, зрабіся дарогай. To master an endless road, become a road. Thank you. That's the book. You can find it also on the table, and I'm giving the chair to Alhierd because he also has a book to present.
Yes, and maybe before I read my text, back to your question, I forgot to say, how is my life changed?
Okay, tell us.
I became an extremist, and my novels and my books, so indeed are all my books in Belarus banned now, and official two my novels, Dogs of Europe and the last book of Mr. A, are at the list of extremistic materials of Republic of Belarus. Thank you. Honor for me.
But moreover, the publishing houses also found extreme informations. For example, Bacharevič, who also published the book that I will try to tell, who published Собаки Европы, Dmitry Kolos, who published our books in 2000.
You tell about the news from last week.
The news, and the publishers who stayed in the country are in prison.
Monday.
Yes, so it's still very fresh, and people are in prison and found they've been acknowledged as political prisoners. Dmitry Kolos, Alexander Yaldakov, who is the book distributor, and Bogdanovich. Do you remember, Igor? Václav Bogdanovich. So they were acknowledged as political prisoners. So
now I'm going to tell about my new book, Paperowy Golem.
That you didn't take from home.
Paper Golem, it's a pity, but I don't have this book in my hands today.
Now you're going to be Kindle Golem.
Kindle Golem, electronic Golem. And I'm going to read some short text from this book. Paperowy Golem is a collection of very, very short texts. So some texts are 2-3 sentences.
And some of them are 2-3 pages.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And
I will read the translation.
I will read the original text. Ким ты хочешь стать, коли вырастешь? Пытались яны. Іншаземцам, адказваў ты сур'ёзна, бо ўжо тады лічыў, што гэта такая прафесія.
What do you want to be when you grow up? They asked. A foreigner, you answered seriously, because even then you thought that this was such a profession.
Мова – гэта дыханне. Літаратура – гэта рытмічнае дыханне мовы. Музыка словаў. Тых, хто заікаецца, ў дзяцінстве вучаць перш за ўсё правільна дыхаць. Мы не заікаемся, калі чытаем у голас верш, добра напісаную прозу ці пяем песню. Мы заікаемся толькі, калі спантанна гаворым да людзей, размаўляем з людзьмі, калі мы вымушаныя гаварыць. А літаратура – гэта вольны, свядомы акт мовы. Ніхто не прымушае цябе ствараць кнігі. Вось і задумаешся часам, можа, таму ты і абраў некалі літаратуру, міжволі, інстынктыўна ратуючыся ад заікання ў краіне рытмічнага тэксту. Вечныя ўцёкі, якія навучылі цябе пісаць і чытаць, а на самой справе дыхаць.
Language is breathing. Literature is the rhythmic breathing of language, the music of words. Those who stutter are first of all taught in childhood to breathe properly. We do not stutter while reading aloud a poem, well-written prose, or sing a song. We stutter only when we speak spontaneously to people, when we talk to people, when we are forced to speak. And literature is a free, conscious act of speech. No one forces you to create books. So sometimes you wonder, maybe that's why you chose literature in the first place. Involuntary, instinctively, escaping your stuttering in the land of the rhythmic text. Eternal flight that taught you to write and read, but in fact, to breathe.
Сапраўдным пісьменнікам можа называць сябе толькі той, хто здольны напісаць сапраўдную казку.
Only someone who is able to write a true fairy tale can call themselves a true writer.
Беларуская літаратура нікому не цікавая на захад. А калі ўсё ж яны вырашаюць нас пачытаць, мы цікавыя ім толькі як ахвяры або як сведкі. Ад нас чакаюць адно скаргаў на цяжкі лёс і сведчанняў супраць таталітарызму, савецкага або цяперашняга. Калі ты хочаш сказаць штосьці большае, калі ты хочаш стварыць свой свет, паразважаць, папярэдзіць, парушыць правілы, як і належыць мастаку, дзверы зачыняюцца, святло гасне, мікрафон адключаны. На цябе глядзяць як на статыста, які пралез наперад, стаў побач з выканаўцам галоўнай ролі пасярод прэм'еры і пачаў версці ад сябеціну перад поўнай залай. Сарваў спектакль, што рыхтаваўся стагоддзямі, падвёў столькіх добрых людзей. За гэта цябе выкрэсліваюць з ліку акторскай групы. Ты выходзіш з тэатру праз чорны ўваход, выдыхаеш, закурваеш і ідзеш на трамвай. Вяртаешся ў свой цесны пакойчык на ўскраіне чужой літаратуры і пачынаеш усё спачатку.
Belarusian literature is of no interest to the Westerners. As if they do decide to read us, they are only interested in us as victims or witnesses. All they expect from us is complaints about our difficult fate and testimonies against Soviet or current totalitarianism. If you try to say something bigger, if you try to create your own world, reflect, warn, break the rules, as an artist should do, the doors are closed, the lights are off, the microphone is silent. They look at you like an extra who crawled forward, stood next to the star performer in the middle of the premiere and started spouting nonsense in front of a full audience. You ruined the performance that had been in the making for centuries. You let so many good people down. For this, you are struck off the cusp. You leave the theater through the back entrance, exhale, light a cigarette, and go to the tram stop. you return to your cramped little room on the outskirts of foreign literature to start all over again.
And the last one. Моє ставлення до чоловіка ніколи не буде визначатися тим, який у його пашпорт. Мають значення тільки вчинки, тільки його позиція, тільки коштовності, які він визнає. Ми не вибираємо, де і ким народитися. Чоловік, який відмовиться від громадянства, зробиться парою у будь-якій країні. Що в США, що в Білорусі, що в КНДР. Пашпорт – це узаконений гвалт держави. Світ, який називає себе вольним, світ, який так довго повчав нас, що нації не мають значення і що націоналізм – абсолютне зло, раптом почав карати людей поводле пашпортної прикмети. Дискримінація чоловіка поводле пашпорта – ганьба, бо це кара за ніщо. Глупство, бо пашпортів у чоловіка може бути 2, ті навіть 3. А, наприклад, білоруси – люди з пашпортами, але без держави. Гідота. Бо подобно до дискриминации поводле внешности. Такая дискриминация есть признанием. Мы найвышейшая пашпортная раса, делим людей на разные гатунки. Люди найвышейшего гатунку мають право жити вольно, іншим доведеться змиритися або загинуть у турмах. Я не збираюсь глядеть на людей в очима чиновника. Мислить історично, бачить у кожному чоловіку апатрид, а не мерить, як черепи, чужие пашпорти.
My attitude toward a person will never be defined by what passport they hold. Only actions matter, only their position, only the values they hold. We do not choose where or who we are born. A person who renounces their citizenship becomes an outcast in any country, whether in the US, Belarus or North Korea. A passport is the legalized violence of the state. A world that calls itself free, a world that lectured us for so long about that nations don't matter and that nationalism is an absolute evil, has suddenly started punishing people based on their passports. Discriminating against a person on the basis of their passport is a disgrace, because it is punishment for nothing. It is foolish because a person can have 2 or even 3 passports, and for example Belarusians are people with passports but without a state. It is outrageous because it resembles discrimination based on appearance. Such discrimination is an admission. We, the supreme passport race, divide people into different grades. People of the highest grade have the right to live freely. The others will have to accept it or perish in prisons. I have no intention of looking at people through the eyes of a bureaucrat. To think historically, to see in every person a stateless individual, and not to measure like skulls other people's passports.
Thank you, Yulia.
Thank
so
you.
much.
And we have, thank you. And we have several minutes to end up our talk and reading. And I have one more book to present to you. One copy is on the table, but the book is very important for me. The book is called Krovozvorot in Belarusian. In English, it could be called as
The blood circulation.
blood circulation or blood cycle or something like that. There should be. Yeah, but it also a book not only about, it's a book about my family, about a 100-year history of my family, about my grandfathers and grandmothers, and about my great-grandfather, who had to leave the places of their places, but also involuntary, like me, being exiled. About people who were taken to Germany for forced labor. About, for example, the sister of my grandfather, Shura. She had that name, and she was a forced labor in Germany. But after that, she didn't go to she didn't come back to the Soviet Belarus. She first went to the Great Britain, actually, to Bradford, and then from Bradford she went to Canada, where she spent the rest of her life. And she was sending letters to my family in a small Polesian, or how it's called, yeah, village in the eastern part of Belarus. And these letters were kept, and I read these letters and I made copies of them, still being in Belarus. And in this book I also used this letter sent from Guelph in Canada to Belarus. And from Bradford. No, they're not from Bradford. Okay, that doesn't matter. And so there are 3 parts of the book. In the first I tell about my family, and the first part ends in 1985, and the second part starts 1986, because Chernobyl, as you can decide that that's the year of the Chernobyl catastrophe, is a part of my family history. My family and I was 4 at that time, was moved, has been evacuated. That was the word that was used. Evacuated to the so-called clean areas of Belarus. And it also changed our life, of course. I left my own home several times. And this third part tells about our exile. And I will read, we don't have so much time, I would read also several poems of that, from that book, from the last part, from the exiled part, my story. And the translation that I have. We'll manage, right? Yeah. Завсёди бить чужой. На кожній халінці, куди ти на ніч мостишся, на кожній мові, якою п'єш, каб порозуметься. Не бить своей нигде. Ни во власном теле, ни на земле бабуль, ни в небе веросневым, пропахлым востро попелом и пылом. Ты — марнотравная дочка. Калі аднойчы за браму выскочила и пайшла, схаваўшы страх, як хлеб за пазуху, яго і будзеш шчыпаць па крошцы. Наперад крочыць, аглядвацца назад, ніколі не забываць, адкуль ты і што ты бачыла па той бок небакраю. Ніхто табе авечку не заб'е, ні курыцу, ніхто цябе ў найлепшыя уборы не адзене. Ідзі, адкуль прыйшла, нават калі адсюль. Ідзі адсюль. And the English translation made by myself. Always a stranger. On every twig you sit on to spend the night. In every language you gulp for comprehension. Never an insider. Not in your own body, nor in your own body, nor in the land of grandmas, nor in the autumn sky with tangled odor of ash and dust. A prodigal daughter. When once you left the gate and walked, putting that fear like bread in bosom, you'll pinch it off by crumbs and share with those like you. So go ahead. While looking back, do not forget where you're from and what you've seen over the skyline. No one will slaughter a lamb for you, nor chicken. No one will clothe you in the best of gowns. Go wherever you are from, even when you are from here. Go. Just go away. And maybe the last point. Yeah? It's short. And very sad, maybe, or not sad. It's the optimism that we can have. And every poem here, almost every poem, has the title, and the title is the name, the place, and the year. So here, Юля, Кемниц, Германия, 2023. Я боюся, што дарога, якой я іду, нікуды мяне не вядзе. Што гэта тулянне будзе бясконцым, што ў мяне ніколі не будзе дому, з цяністым садам, пухнатым сабачкам і вялізнаю бібліятэкай. Ведаеш, баяцца не варта. Все пуцявіны вядуць туды, дзе стаіць ён, твой дом. Ты яго не прапусціш, не схібіш, гараць, яго шырокія вокны вітаючы цемры райскага саду. Праходзь жа смялей, смерць абдыме цябе як родную і выпіць налье з дарогі. Дарэчы, я хочу выпіць, да. Можна. Is there some water?
Червоное, белое.
Just water. Thank you. Julia Chemnitz, Germany 2023. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's only Alan now. Yeah, not the dead. I'm afraid you will hear at the end. Yeah, Alan, sorry. I'm afraid the path I'm walking could take me nowhere. That this wandering could be endless, that I could never have home with a shady garden, a fluffy dog, and a magnificent library. You know, fear not. All the roads go there where it is your home. You won't miss it, won't pass it. The lights of its windows glow and greet in the dark of the heaven. Come inside. Death will take you in arms and will offer a drink after travel. Thank you. Yes.
Now we're going to move very.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Jim zaproponował, ja liczę genialną nazwę dla tej księgi. Blood goes round and round.
Okay. I think the blood goes round and round. Thank you.
We're very quickly now going to move to questions. Now, I'm sure there'll be a lot, and I'm not going to exercise the usual chair's prerogative to ask a question, but I will exercise one thing. As I was listening to the talk, as you'll be aware, I've been involved in Belarusian politics, culture, and what's the other thing? Science, yes. Academic education for over 30 years. And I'm just going to fire some bullet points because the wide-ranging scope of what you presented in terms of giving an understanding of what it is like to be a Belarusian, first of all in Belarus, then in exile, I found really quite remarkably sweeping, and your ability to put into poetry and prose
And also poetry. Yeah.
and also poetry. This situation just joins with the literature that we now in this time are so fortunate, particularly in this country, to have the ability to promote. And here are my, you know, I started thinking it would only be 3 bullet points, by the time you finish it was 5, because it's so amazing. Your point about impact on creatives in exile, right at the beginning, you talked about what it did to you. And we had in this room one of those creatives in exile that has done so much for the Belarusian language. She is so busy, and it's a feature of the small number of Belarusians who are shouting loudly the culture and the language. We need more. We have so few. They are just so busy, and they really are amazingly engaged with their work and their art. This is the problem in this country. And in fact, that was, as we know, Hannah Komar. She knew before this she already had an event. I would like to advertise her event next Thursday on the 19th in the evening. She is at a wonderful public house performance space near King's Cross. Some of you may have heard of the Harrison. It's a shame that you won't be there, but we will have another couple of Belarusian performers actually who will be at that. So she's busy doing all her activities. So yes, I certainly have seen, and some of you will know, we recently had an ANGLO-BELARUSIan Society meeting, the start of a series on what I would almost call the new creatives. You may recall we had Evelina Shadrina sitting with Hannah here, talking about their recent work in promoting Belarusian culture. The Belarusian language, it was interesting that point about the dip. You didn't hear much of Belarusian language. You talked about 2007, 2008. I'd slightly have to correct you, because one person we're bringing over, I'm trying to get back, the Belarusians who presented the Belarusian language here in Britain in the 1990s, that when the new period of the new Belarus, 95, 96, 97, we were able to hear a lot of Belarusian language in Britain, and Carolina is sitting there with a smile on her face, remembering a beautiful folktale play that was performed in Belarusian language just across the road in the library in 1997. That's terrible, that's 29 years ago at this high point. So it's happening again. And in fact, next week at AGM, I've got 2 personal guests, and they're looking to organise and present. I'm saying all this now in the follow-up because I think we as a group should action the comments and follow on from what Alhierd has been reminding us. Let us not let a dip in the promotion of Belarusian language happen when we've got so much opportunity to do it. The protest, I'm looking at Alice in this respect, because what you bring in the diary, and if you have not read the diary and the personal experience of the protests in Belarus, we just could feel so fortunate how easy those of us in this room, and I was just looking at a photograph of Pavel cycling down Pall Mall, you will remember, with your flag, and the police helping us. You know, the difference, we had it so easy here. The only running we were doing was to try and get as quickly to the embassy as possible, or crossing roads. So different experience, and in that respect, I want, as a British person, discrimination, you came out with that poem. There's an obvious question, but I'm not going to answer it because I promised I wouldn't exercise, and I might at the end. I got so angry, you know. Alhierd and Julia applied for their visa for Britain in Berlin at the British Visa Service, and the same day they came back and said, we have applied, but Alhierd has German travel documents. Julia used Belarusian passport, yes?
Yeah, but in the end it was the same, so we were treated,
Yeah,
he was treated as a Belarusian
yeah. But what they said was, oh, for Alhierd, he should get in 3 weeks, but Julia,
5.
4 or 5. I was, and I have actually already presented this to the British Foreign Office, who has as much problems with our dreadful visa service. Several people did not get to a Foreign Office meeting because of our ridiculous way you're handled. So I apologise as a British person who should clearly get their government. No, it is, because we're not working hard enough on actually making it a political issue that this kind of discrimination, we're still in a democracy, it's got to stop, and we've got to mobilise, and we'll be mobilising. Alice is very good at this kind of thing as well, chasing and pushing members of Parliament. I've had enough of the way our Home Office and our visa service is treating people like this. That should never even have been happening. So,
and Ryanair, please, also.
And that poem, I think we better get it right in front of these people who make decisions, what it is to feel discrimination that is absolutely unnecessary.
I have a feeling we will achieve something.
So
I have a feeling we will achieve. We will succeed to achieve it. So everybody will be treated the same. So everybody will be treated like 5 weeks.
Oh no! Thank you for that, Lisa. Right, that's the point. Bloodline again. You know, this is so important. I'm actually looking. I'm beginning to wonder: are Jim and I the only sort of naturally born British citizens?
I was born
this,
naturally, yes.
Very naturally, not untimely ripped like Macbeth. No, I think we are. That's terrible. Where are the Brits here? Where are the Brits?
Oh, we're the last of our
Watching football.
there's no football. Well, you know, then there's an issue here because of getting an understanding of what it's like to have lived in a country that has been stirred up like an ant heap, where it's exile, there's no stability, and even if you stayed in the one place, I remember Vladimir Shazny, the former, one of the probably best and only really good ambassador Belarus has ever sent here, took me to his house, and I met his father who'd lived in 5 countries in his life. And You could list them through. Lived long enough, and you'd only ever stayed in the one location. You know, there are places in Belarus. You know, I've lived in the one location. Well, that was about 20 years ago. I don't know if we'd find quite so many people now, because. But anyway, compared to the stability, I'm about to take Julia and Alhierd tomorrow to Edinburgh, my university, which is of course of a great European capital, where it's stability and not a lot seems to change as you walk through the streets. So thank you for that. We may move to questions. And yes, Pavel.
Julia, you mentioned that you write in English, that you're still not an English writer. To what extent do you think, because obviously there's a debate about Alhierd, you know, whether she's a truly Belarusian writer because she writes in Russian. How important it is the language, you know, in terms of belonging to a particular nation? Because obviously it's a worldview, it's not just a system of symbols and sounds, but it's a worldview. So when would you become an English writer, do you think?
Never.
And is Alhierd a Belarusian writer?
Yes, Alhierd is a Belarusian writer.
Alhierd is the last Soviet writer.
Okay, but still. But still, she's the only Belarusian author who got the Nobel Prize that we have. So yes, she is a Belarusian author. We should speak also about that, because it's important for us to have a Nobel Prize winner in literature. But for me, it's also, I would say that Svetlana Alexievich is a different thing. So we are different, I mean, in this usage of the language, because for me it was, on the one hand, it was a kind of language. So it's a foreign language for me, English. For Svetlana Alexievich, her Russian is her mother tongue, is her language. And for me, it's just the substitute of the language, maybe. It's the language in between, because I can't write it like a native speaker. So it's the language, I would say, in between. So I do not add anything to that language when I write in the English. I can't change it, this language. That's not what I can do special interesting with that language. And that's why I try to write poetry. I have one English poetry, it's called My European Poem, and I wrote it in English. It was the first attempt of writing in English, but it was also, I wrote that poem like a cry for help. It was written on the 5th of August 2020 for my Facebook friends to understand what was happening in Belarus, and because no one was writing about the political prisoners we had at that moment before the elections, about the repressions, about the beatings in the streets, and so on and so forth. So that was my attempt to speak to the international community in the language that they can understand. Also to Lithuanians, to Germans, to French people that I have in my Facebook. But that I don't consider myself to be an English, because I can't change that language.
Natalia has a question on that.
Sorry, I was a bit late, probably you were talking about that. So first of all, thank you, Pavel, for bringing the question of the language. So I also wanted to ask actually Alhierd this time about language. I would say that the theme of a language goes through many of your works, in particular Dogs of Europe, where you invented a new language. And also today you read your poetry, Suprativ. And in the English translation, Jim used the word newspeak. So my question, were you inspired by Orwell, or it's just purely Jim's idea?
Can I give for Alhierd and Julia context with Natalia Treisen? She is one of the people who's worked so hard to introduce a Belarusian school here in the library. Lena, you've been involved in this, a small number of people for the children of the new generation, British-born Belarusians or something that come. So the language question, very important.
Yeah, thank you. Very good questions, very complicated questions. Yeah, I was inspired, by Orwell also, but not only, by many authors, many writers, but especially by the Zamenhof, the creator of Esperanto. I was always interested for languages, for constructed languages. It's very, very interesting for me to create languages, and I have two examples in this situation. Dvolapiuk, I think, did you,
It's
you
another
know
constructed language.
about this constructed language. This is
By
a
German,
language,
right?
yes, from 19th century.
19th century.
Yeah.
Mm.
A pastor,
A priest,
a priest.
a German priest
German
invented
priest,
it,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, Pastor Schleier invented this language Dvolapiuk, and Esperanto. Esperanto is very, very successful experiment with the language by Ludwig Zamingov.
Who comes from Belarus, actually. He came from Belarus.
From Poland.
From Poland,
Yeah.
yeah.
Białystok.
But Belarus, but okay.
Yeah.
Our Poland.
Yeah.
In Bordeaux.
Sure.
And the difference between Esperanto and Dvolapiuk and Balbuta, these invented languages in my novel Dogs of Europe. So Alhierd, the hero of this, the character, main character of this novel, he invented Balbuta not because he wanted to connect people in the world closer to each other. No.
Not to make them understand each other,
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
Also, not for understanding.
This is a story about
The story of ownership of the language,
Yeah,
maybe, yeah?
yeah.
Присобачивание.
He needed the language only for himself.
Yeah, he wanted to own the language.
Yes. And Balbuta is, indeed, Balbuta is a big utopia. Utopia. And every utopia is Balbuta very, very dangerous experiment. Balbuta is a utopia of language, and in every case with utopias, we people, we are a resource for the realization of this utopia. And Alhierd in this novel, he used people to realize his own utopia. Yeah, utopia. So it's very complicated question and very interesting, and maybe not for today.
Yeah.
Is he here?
If we had more time, I probably would ask you about belonging and Belarusians for decades not being able much travel and so kind of sitting in one place and then suddenly being thrown out. But let us make a leap to your situation, the current situation. What's your relationship with Belarus? How do you feel about Belarus? Do you miss your audience in Belarus? Is the audience in the diaspora, we call it now diaspora, immigration used to be, in the diaspora, is it different? How does it feel to you? Yeah. To both of you.
Okay, I can start maybe. Of course, our life as also in Belarus was a bit different from what we have now. With diaspora, you mean with this Belarusian public and diaspora, and these are different publics that we had. That's also very interesting. Gutenberg Publishing House made a survey of the readership, and the main reasons why people read, according to the survey, so the answers were: I want to read in the Belarusian language, and I want to support the publishers. That was for us. It's a bit like, why are we writing this complicated books if you want to read Harry Potter in Belarus? Because the books that are most read by the diaspora now people are mostly, I would say, that's my opinion, fantasy in the Belarusian language. Harry Potter, how it's called, The Witcher, and other kind of fantasies. Why I am writing poetry? For whom I'm writing this poetry? I guess now I'm writing poetry for the German audience, I would say, because but being in Belarus it was different. That's why. Coming back, we had our bookstore, Lochwinau bookstore, for example, and there was this. Of course, it was a kind of ghetto. It was a kind of literary ghetto, but there were people in this ghetto who were whose level of readership is. Do you understand what I mean? So, how they read was higher, for example. Then we have it now in diaspora. Of course, it's different. And sometimes we have to be like educators. We have to educate. We have to be stand-uppers. We have to amuse. We have to entertain. It's a bit different, of course. Yeah, I guess has something to add.
I completely agree. Yeah, and so we discussed this question a lot.
During the night, dark nights, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Maybe some words about the language in this situation. Yeah. The literature is the highest level of language. Yeah. Poetry, literature, and for example, Dogs of Europe. Yes, many Belarusian they learn foreign languages today. Yes, but if our readers can speak Belarusian on the level A2, yes, or the B1, yes, how can they read
a book in
for
C2.
example, this novel? Yes, yes. So at first, they must learn this language, and then after that they can read the books like this. And maybe it's a reason
why they're reading Harry Potter, okay? Because
yes,
it's also
yes.
easier.
I wrote this book. This book is quite easy.
Yeah, And it's loved both. So as Alhierd says it, he's right. He wrote that book for people.
Yes.
Книга для людей.
Yes. And this book is not for for
Yeah.
people, no.
Maybe I guess that you, Igor, can also add to that, and we can have this long conversation. But that's the topic of the whole, I guess, evening, the whole event. Also.
We tend to think that the cream of cream actually has been pushed out from Belarus.
You mean this? Yeah.
And we. So what you're saying, it's actually it challenges my assumptions. I will have to go back and think now.
Yeah, but when you say, if we speak about readership, but it's important, Alan. Yeah, so of course, most of the writers left the country.
Yeah.
Those who are inside, they do not have any opportunity to publish inside of the country. They had, but now almost all the publishers are acknowledged as extremist formation organizations, so they do not, for example, Alhierd, he can't, he doesn't have a publisher to publish his works, and he's inside of the country. Okay, I'm not going to speak more, but still, it's also a big tragedy because there are readers inside of the country, and there are not less readers inside of the country than outside of the country. Maybe there are more, and they have this urge to read, and they have this desire to read, but they do not have this opportunity.
Yeah, but what about digital form?
What?
Digital form.
Yeah, but that's not a question for us. It's of course a question for the publishers, and I get Igor is more competent.
Belarusians found by ebooks.
I think Carolina wants to come in with a question. Let's move on.
Yes, thank you, Alan. Thank you, both of you, for reading, for talking. For all of us who are associated with the library, it's very special to have authors of the books we have in the library, when the texts can really come alive. I have a question about your interaction with your audiences online. And as a background to that question is that we actually have met Alhierd online already in our book club. We were reading Plošče Peremoghi, and you agreed to be our guest author, and it was wonderful. But even before that event, we read Дети Алиндарки in our book club, and I think that was the most memorable of our meetings, because in the middle of discussing all those linguistic and cultural dilemmas, one of us said, "Have you seen what's going on in Belarus?" It was 2020, it was before the elections, and one of us shared a picture of just a sea of people And for me, that's forever stuck with that novel. It is that image. It was contradicting the argument of the novel, because the culture, the language was a kind of the image of ghetto. Yeah, it was just thank you for that experience. And yeah, back to my question.
Thank you for the comment.
Yeah.
Back to the question, how do you find interacting with audiences online?
It's quite hard to communicate with people online. Online is not my format. I need always this direct contact with people. I have to see your eyes, faces. I have to feel this energy of people. And online is, but at Corona time, it was only one possibility to speak.
We stayed for 2 hours, I guess, then, back in 2019.
No, it's the beginning of online, then you get fed up.
So I would say for me it's so live event is very important because I can wear my best clothes. For example, this sacco. And for online events it doesn't matter. I can sit in my pyjama.
Oh, I think we maybe read. Oh, at least was.
Now I hesitate, but I want to ask about audiobooks.
Audiobooks.
Yeah. I mean, are you kind of considering or?
Well, considering Alhierd has audiobooks, but he didn't.
Yes, and not only one. And so maybe very short about Dogs of Europe. Audio book. Sergei Shupa, my editor, my friend. He has
He has read.
Read. But 3 parts of this book. And
He's a professional. He's a radio host, so he made that very professional.
And I like his voice. I like his art to read. My novel, and we are waiting for the part 4 and 5 and 6.
But you also have other books as audiobooks. Which
the
one?
last book of Mr. A and Театр счастливых детей, the Belarusian old actor Alhierd.
Yes.
We have a lot audio books.
I'm going to, in a moment, one very last question. This is the last one.
Thank you so much for coming to us and talking to us. It's an honor. Everyone say a lot about Dogs of Europe. I also enjoyed that book, and I also was lucky to see it in Barbican. It was really nice experience, really nice. Thank you so much for that. But my question is about a book, Хлопчик и смех. I really enjoyed that. I guess it's my favorite type of literature, memoirs. So should we expect the next about 90s? Next book 90s?
Yeah.
No. Because Хлопчик и смех
There is the book Мои 90-е. by
It already exists.
Yeah.
That's it.
This book was published in 2018 in Minsk by Yadushkevich Publishing House, and it was the beginning of this series.
I will try to find it.
And Shabani?
Shabani is a novel. It's different. But you can.
Okay, we've just heard the words from Alhierd. They love the in-person bit, and we're now going to move to that bit we cannot ever do on Zoom, where we are together as a group of human beings having a whatever drink we prefer to take and having some communication.